A small loaf for 50 Sudanese pounds, 250-gram flour for 2,000 or 3,000 Sudanese pounds. Skyrocketing prices in the politically and economically destabilized country of Sudan is forcing people into a hunger crisis. Millions who are already battling poverty and hunger are now witnessing a deepening food crisis courtesy of the war in Ukraine. Here's a look at how a war miles away in Ukraine is impacting Sudan and several other developing countries. Sudan was already reeling under political and economic issues and the pandemic. Adding the impact of war to it, Sudan's inflation is now running at more than 250%, making even essentials out of reach of citizens. According to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, Sudan imports 87% of its wheat from Russia and Ukraine. UN says this makes Sudan one of the Arab world's most exposed countries to the war. Just last week, the World Food Programme estimated that about 18 million people in Sudan face a hunger crisis and poverty as a direct impact of the war. The World Food Programme has for long worked with helping the rural poor in Sudan. It is, however, for the first time ever expanding its operations to help people in urban areas. These unprecedented circumstances have put pressure on the World Food Programme, which has said that it will run out of food stocks in Sudan by May.
The issue really is that the war in Ukraine will make everything worse for everyone, right? So not just in Sudan, but all over the world, food prices will go up because Russia and Ukraine are such big producers of cereals. So with this inflation will increase, it will exacerbate the situation of already vulnerable populations, like those living in the margins in Sudan, whether they're on the border with Ethiopia in the refugee camps, or they are in displaced camps in Darfur. So these people really living on the margins, they're really going to suffer as a result of this.
However, Sudan is not the only country bearing the consequences. The World Bank has stated that the war is threatening to cause lasting damage to the economies of low and middle-income countries. It has also said that this crisis will push millions of people into poverty and dozens of countries into a serious debt crisis. A recent report by the Institute of International Finance reported that Central European countries such as Poland, the Czech Republic, Hungary, and also Turkey and Egypt were even more exposed. Russia produces about 80 million metric tons of wheat a year and exports close to 30 million tons, and Ukraine exports about 20 to 25 million tons a year. Egypt imports about 80% of its wheat from Russia and Ukraine. Several countries in sub-Saharan Africa also import 85% of their wheat from Russia and Ukraine. For these countries, which have already been impacted by the pandemic, the war has added to their woes. It has led to Ukrainian ports being closed, and Russia is also facing obstacles in exporting its produce because of the financial sanctions imposed on it by the US, its allies, and the European Union. The distribution of these agricultural products is devastating for the food security of many nations. Russia has an 18% market share of global wheat exports, while Ukraine has a 10% market share. Similarly, for barley, Russia has a 14% market share and Ukraine has 12%. In sunflower oil, Ukraine is the largest global exporter with a 37% market share, while Russia has a 26% market share. Russia is also a major exporter of fertilizers, shipping around 17% of the global supply. A federal report.